were an industry leader or you were a key stakeholder for the government or a key executive in a firm, right? And now you realize that, what, we have lagged on this
Mhm.
usage of data science or AI, right? What would you say would be your action plan for the next 6 months, or how would you operate, or how would you go about it?
Yeah, I think, I'm a big believer in training people.
Mm-hmm.
So, assuming that many of the stakeholders within the company are not necessarily familiar with how data science can improve their business unit outcome,
Mm-hmm.
I think the first goal should be to train them in the data science way of thinking. Maybe spend 4 days, 5 days telling them about different use cases,
Mm-hmm.
case studies from different companies where data
Mm-hmm.
science is used
Mm-hmm.
to improve the overall business outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Once that happens, then each of them will be better able to understand within their business unit where all they can apply data science.
Right.
One good rule of thumb is if there is a predictability in any process, data science can really exploit that predictability and improve the overall outcome a lot. So, for instance, if um, like demand side management, for
Right.
instance,
Right. Right.
what is that called? Like ordering
Mm-hmm.
items in the morning so that
Right.
during the day you can uh,
Service
send
them.
it to customers. Demand
Right.
optimization,
Right.
no,
Right. Demand
inventory.
aggregation. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So you need to know whether there is a lot of randomness in the data, in the prior data that you have seen, or there is
Mm-hmm.
limited randomness. If it is
Mm-hmm.
limited randomness, data science can help you a lot. If
Right.
there is a lot of randomness, then again, data science will not be helpful.
Right.
So at least you can score, you can come up with a score that, okay, these are the places where there is a pattern, either due to human habits, either due to legal regulations, either due to I don't know, the way society functions. There are patterns, and there is fewer sources of randomness.
Mm.
Then you apply data science in those particular processes, and you can see huge improvements.
Right.
And those are the areas which we need to prioritize and start implementing one by one. Start implementing data science in one of those areas. Do experimentation. I think figuring out like the 6 months will go into just building that experimental framework
Right. Right.
to know whether algorithm one is better or algorithm two is better.
Right.
So
Right.
a lot of that background work also needs to be done, which doesn't involve algorithm design at all,
Right.
but it
Right.
just
Right.
requires making sure all the data pipelines are working and the
Yeah.
dashboards are working and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot
And
of things have to happen on multiple fronts.
correct. Correct. So raw things need to come together for something like this to work.
Right.
But here's the question, right? So let's say maybe post this podcast, someone gets inspired, an executive. Yes, I want to now bring it over. But here's the challenge that I also see happening, which is if you ask a data science company, can I solve this problem or not? They're not going to be honest about it. Like if you have a
Right.
consulting firm, because their incentives are to advise you that yes, this
Right.
problem can be solved, right? It's okay if it's going to take 1 year for them to figure out whether it can be done or not, but
Right.
they can bill you for that time, right?
Correct. Correct.
So how do you navigate something like this? Like how do you actually differentiate, what this is like it is actual because I think what you mentioned is correct, right? I mean, even before you start bringing over build a team and all, right? You need to figure out if the problems you're solving actually have possibility to solve them or not, right?
Correct. Correct.
When inherently difficult and there's very little possibility there, then maybe it doesn't make sense, right?
Right. Right.
So what do you do in that case? Yeah,
It's more about design of organizations, right? So how
right,
do you design an organization so that you can even vet the consultants or the kind of people who are coming through the door and telling you that the problem can be solved or
right,
cannot be
right,
solved?
right,
Uh, it's a very hard question.
right, right,
If there are simple, uh, what is that called? If you can do simple queries on the data and try to come up with, okay, what sort of behavioral pattern we see, if that gives you some information, I think you can still try to uh, do something about it. But yeah, unfortunately,
there's no straight,
I know in my own life when I work with companies as consultants, there is a lot of iterative process that goes
right,
on
right,
before even coming up with the metrics that okay, this is the right metric to look at.
yeah,
So it's never a process wherein you tell me the metric and I come in and optimize that metric for you. It's more like it's an iterative process where you tell me the metric for the first time. I look at the data and then I say, look, this metric is not going to move. We need to do something else. And then we have a discussion and engage with a lot of different stakeholders, get the
Right.
business people in, get the product managers in, get the customer support in, and try to figure out, okay, what is the metric, that alternate metric that we can look at, which
Right.
also moves the business needle in the right direction,
Right.
but at the
Right.
same time is more amenable to data science based investigation.
Right.
So it's a bit of an iterative process, and if you
Right.
don't have people in-house to take over that iterative process, it becomes very difficult
Right.
uh,
Right.
to do it. And that's why I think there is no right answer to this question. It's just
Understood.